What if the person fate warns you about turns out to be the one whose heartbeat syncs perfectly with your own? Picture clicking on a trending video titled Unexpected Roommates, a forbidden love story, and feeling your pulse skyrocket before the first frame loads. That was the electricity Ellie Carter tasted the day she unlocked the weather-worn beach house she'd inherited, only to find her estranged stepbrother Mason Hayes already unpacking on the opposite side of the hallway. Ellie, 23, had escaped a cutthroat New York marketing gig where burnout was treated like a brag. Mason, 25, had bolted from Silicon Valley after his startup imploded, leaving him broke but wiser. Neither expected company, let alone the magnetic pull that crackled in the salty air whenever their eyes collided like waves. On the shore, the cottage felt like a YouTube set begging to go viral, shabby chic furniture awaiting a DIY makeover montage, a wraparound porch perfect for sunrise confessionals, and an attic stacked with vintage cassette tapes the internet would label content gold. Everything screamed temporary except the way Mason steadied the ladder while Ellie hammered a loose shingle, making the algorithm of her heart skip like a scratched record. That night they ate instant ramen by smartphone flashlight because the power hadn't been restored. Mason joked about adding candlelit dinner to their accidental couple checklist. Ellie laughed, then felt guilty. Laughter felt off limits in a house shadowed by fresh loss. Mason's tone softened. Mom would want you to chase joy, not tiptoe around it. His sincerity slid under her defenses like sea foam over bare feet. Hooked viewers know that every binge-worthy romance starts with a cliffhanger, and Ellie was suddenly living hers. Truly live. Could two grieving strangers bound only by a fragile legal tie transform viral tension into harmony? The question hovered between them. Ellie tried to frame the situation logically. They were roommates, co-heirs, adults capable of setting boundaries. Yet each mundane chore, sharing the bathroom, squeezing lime over spicy taco leftovers, debating whose playlist captured the cottage vibe, felt like fan service feeding invisible subscribers desperate foe. Are another will they, won't they beat, and every time Mason's laugh echoed, Ellie felt the view count in her chest spike. Mason wasn't immune. The more he noticed how sunlight threaded gold through Ellie's curls, the harder it became to pretend his only interest was selling the property and rebooting his tech career. One sunset he nearly confessed everything, but the words froze, buffering as he watched Ellie dance barefoot on the porch to a low-fi beat pulsing from her earbuds. She looked like a thumbnail promising hope after heartbreak, and Mason couldn't risk losing that promise. Still, destiny kept scripting collisions. A midnight thunderstorm that forced them to drag dripping quilts to the living room sofa, a broken faucet they fixed together using a YouTube tutorial, and a box of their late parents' letters revealing how hard those parents had rooted for blended family love. Each incident wound curiosity tighter, setting up an irresistible next episode. Week 1 blurred by in a cozy montage. Ellie filmed Mason replacing warped floorboards. Mason caught Ellie turning thrift finds into chic decor, recording chores turned into shared adventure. Each click of the camera stitching them closer like scenes in a binge-worthy series. Fans would have gone wild, but for now their footage was a secret treasure only they could replay together. The algorithm of proximity worked overtime. When Ellie sneezed after sanding a dusty bookshelf, Mason handed her an iced coffee before she could ask. Vanilla oat milk, her go-to. When Mason's wrist cramped tightening cabinet hinges, Ellie massaged it with peppermint oil she claimed doubled as viral scalp serum. Their gestures weren't just kind, they were intuitive, proof of a growing emotional SEO that ranked each other at the top of their daily search results. Yet every sweet spike in potential analytics brought a counterweight of doubt. Society loves binge-watching forbidden love, but living it invites comment section judgment. One humid afternoon, they discovered a framed photo of their parents' wedding day tucked behind a dusty phonograph. Ellie's breath hitched at the image of her mother and Mason's father beaming on the porch where she now stood close enough to feel Mason's warmth. Was pursuing romance disrespectful to the people who had built this family? We're not blood, Mason whispered, sensing her turmoil. And they're gone. But their love made this moment possible. His words cracked something open in Ellie. Still, fear lingered like a held note. She retreated to the attic to sort vinyl records, trying to lower her internal volume. While she worked, Mason drove to town for hardware and returned to find Wi-Fi finally installed. Curiosity nudged him to upload a 30-second teaser of their renovation clips set to a trending cottagecore sound. By the time Ellie tramped downstairs, the upload had exploded 120,000 views in 2 hours, comments crying out for an entire series, fans dubbing them shiphouse siblings. Ellie laughed at the pun but flushed when the top comment read, "Tell us when the slow burn sparks." The viral attention was thrilling and terrifying. Part of Ellie wanted to delete the clip before rumors spun reality into scandal. Another part pictured turning the channel into a full-scale brand AdSense, sponsorship deals, maybe even a Netflix pitch. Love stories sell, and this one came with tension you can't script. The next hook wrote itself. Would they kiss live on stream or slam the door on temptation? That evening a power outage killed the lights, but not the storm inside them. They lit candles this time intentionally and sat cross-legged on the floor between half-painted walls. Rain hammered the roof like a subscriber bell. Ellie spoke first. Voice shaky, "You're more than family. Mason, that scares me, but losing this feeling scares me more." Mason exhaled a nervous laugh. "I've drafted 100 startup ideas to distract myself, but every blueprint loops back to you." His confession felt like releasing a balloon free, visible, irreversible. Ellie reached out, fingers brushing his arm. The contact was gentle yet electric. A perfect freeze frame. They didn't kiss yet but acknowledged the inevitable with a gaze hotter than July asphalt. Days later, conflict arrived in an email so crisp it looked cut from steel. A real estate developer offered cash to buy the property, close in 10 days. The sum would erase Mason's debts and fund Ellie's dream eco fashion line. Opportunity pinged like a notification, but accepting meant leaving each other before their love story finished buffering. Arguments began politely, toggling between practical and emotional. Sell while the market peaked or keep the cottage as a shared venture? Mason's logical side screamed yes, but his heart clung to nights when Ellie's laughter blended with cicada song. Ellie feared that if she left, the fragile bloom between them would wilt in separate cities. Trending gurus preach that great stories need stakes, and the algorithm served them one more. Mason received a surprise offer to head UX design for a Seattle tech firm. Sign in 48 hours, relocate in a week. Prestige and security dangled like clickbait. The announcement turned the cottage chilly despite summer heat. Ellie congratulated him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That night she filmed alone, narrating a clip about how change feels like ripping up floorboards. You expose rot, so you can rebuild. Mason edited her footage and caught her voice crack midway. Honesty, he decided, was their secret sauce and left it in. Social media exploded. Fans detected the tension and flooded comments with advice, memes, and duet reactions. One influencer begged in all caps, "Mason, if you love her, stay." The cottage had become a global stage. But only they could write the ending. On the 47th hour, one before the deadline, Mason found Ellie sanding the porch rail. Sawdust freckled her cheeks. Determination tightened her jaw. "If you sign," she said, "do it for you. I won't beg." Mason placed the contract envelope on the railing, wind flapping its corners like anxious wings. "I'm tired of building someone else's platform," he said. "We already have one here." He tore the envelope in half. The paper rip echoed louder than thunder. Ellie's sander fell silent. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away sawdust. "I'm choosing our story over any corporate script." Their lips met soft, sure, a promise in 4K resolution. A cheer erupted from a nearby balcony. Neighbors had live streamed the moment, already trending under #CottageKiss. The blowback Ellie feared never came. Comments overflowed with delight. Finally, true love wins. Brands DM'd sponsorship offers. A home renovation network pitched a pilot. Even a therapist offered to discuss healthy boundaries in blended families, turning potential scandal into a teachable moment. Still, they needed parental blessing they could no longer seek. That night they opened the box of letters, searching for guidance in faded ink. One postcard, addressed jointly to Ellie and Mason, read in Ellie's mother's looping script, "Where two hearts feel at home. Build there." It felt like an endorsement from beyond. Bolstered, they recorded a candid video. Mason explained they'd met only briefly in childhood and shared no biological connection. Ellie spoke about love being rooted in respect and consent. Transparency turned controversy into community. With the developer politely declined. They were focused on renovation. The cottage blossomed under fresh paint and artisanal fixtures. But an even bigger transformation unfolded between them. Trust grew like ivy. Each episode ended with the tagline that hooked millions and cemented their bond. Love builds the strongest foundations. Finally, a year later, golden hour splashes honey across the now famous porch and a fresh video thumbnail goes live. "We said yes." Cottage wedding reveal. Inside, fairy lights twirl over reclaimed wood tables. The ocean hushes like distant applause, and Ellie glides down the aisle in a linen dress she designed herself. Mason waits beneath an archway of driftwood and sea glass. eyes bright with every promise the algorithm of love can deliver. Their subscriber count crosses 3 million as the efficient pronounces them husband and wife. But the loudest cheer comes from friends filling the yard. Viewers spam heart emojis in chat while Ellie and Mason seal their vows with a kiss that feels quietly eternal.